You don't have to look far in this city to see history, or at least a particular type of history. There are 27 streets named for people associated with railway companies, 27 for BC politicians between 1850 and 1950, and just one for a person of South Asian descent.
It was a whole bunch of dead white guys that owned much of the land, and so they were basically putting their own names on things.
An analysis of all 651 public streets with unique names in Vancouver bears this out. There are 276 streets named for men and just 14 for women, but 20 for different war battles and 26 for golf courses.
Somebody who was naming the city wasn't thinking about the diversity and gender parity issues.
Adrian Carr is on the city's Civic Asset Naming Committee, founded earlier this decade to give a formal structure to how the city names things.
The names that we've got don't. They don't reflect who we are as a city anymore.
The co-chairs of the committee also want to see that balance shift.
The history of the Indigenous peoples, the history of the Chinese peoples that were brought in, the history of the Japanese people, the Greek peoples that were brought in. All of these people make up the history of Vancouver. It's not just a bunch of dead white settlers. And there's space for the names of dead white settlers as well, but we just need to broaden our horizons a little bit more.
But while Vancouver street names aren't representative of the city today, resistance from the committee to changing them is based on the number of groups it impacts, from the Assessment Authority to Google.
It's simple to say, rename it, but the process is actually, just in the technical side, very difficult.
And there are safety concerns too.
Big problem, if you're talking about confusion for first responders, leads that to being really problematic. But maybe what we could do is add some text, some subtext to some streets, which give a better sense of the history of that place or the people who were important, who weren't white male.
That's why the city focuses on new names instead of changing names. After all, debates about history can be messy, but it's hoped that by looking towards the future, everyone can come together in union. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.